Tonight on UC Sports, March Madness is here and in full swing. We've got the latest update on the men's and women's basketball team in their quest for another dual championship.
And we'll take you out to the ball game, giving the latest updates from the Diamond for both baseball and softball, as well as checking up with the UConn greats in NFL and NBA. All that and more when we return. You're watching UC Sports.
Welcome to UC Sports. This is Anthony DiBernardo and that's Hector Molina. And tonight we are finally back from spring break. We got some sun, slept until 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. But now it's time for another edition of UC Sports.
Now, unfortunately, I didn't have the privilege going to Cancun or Miami, but I did have the privilege to enjoy the madness that has been the NCAA tournament. Speaking of madness, we'll start with our top story, the UConn men's basketball team.
Now, before spring break, the men's basketball team was in Orlando for their American Athletic Conference Championship Tournament. They were in need of a few victories to solidify their chances at making the national tournament. UCTV's aAyer has more.
Hello everyone, I'm here in sunny Orlando, Florida, representing UConn for UC Sports. To my left is the Amway Center, home of the 2016 American Athletic Conference Tournament. It is sure to be an exciting tournament for UConn. Quarterfinals begin tomorrow. They will play Cincinnati. If they end up winning that game, they will move on to the semifinals, followed by the championship round on Sunday at 3:15. UConn is more eager than ever to get a championship game. They made it to the AAC championship game and lost both consecutive rounds. The last time they won a conference title was when they were in the Big East. UConn is coming into this tournament 21-10. Regular season records do not matter though. This tournament is anyone's games for the taking. It is sure to be exciting, but most importantly, intense for all teams, all college basketball fans, all coaches. What more can I say? The UConn Husky squad just took on Cincinnati, who was ranked number 4 in the conference, and beat them 104-97. It was an incredible game. I know all Huskies fans will agree with me. Daniel Hamilton led the team with 31 points today. We had 6 players score in double figures. It was one heck of a game down here at the Amway Center in Orlando. As soon as the game started, you would think it would be nothing but UConn this half. Bryma and Nolan had the first 2 buckets to take the 4-0 lead, but that ended very quickly. UConn began struggling offensively. Shooting percentage was low. There were some air balls, but most importantly, fouls. UConn just couldn't contain Cincinnati down low, but that all changed the second half. Firing on all cylinders. They began shooting the ball well. They weren't fouling out as much, and it ended up going into overtime at the end of the second half. But not just one overtime, 4 overtimes. With 32 points, Daniel Hamilton led the team in scoring for the 7th game this season. He also had a team-high 12 rebounds and 8 assists. UConn had 6 players score in double figures: Gibbs, Hamilton, Miller, Purvis, Bryma, and Adams. Coach Ali said at the end of the game his team clearly has heart right now, and recovery is a big factor at the right moments. Let's check it out.
And that's the great thing about us. We're going to recover. That's what we talk about every day in practice. That's what we talk about every day in film session. And these guys did it.
Tomorrow, the Huskies will take on number 1 Temple at 3 p.m. It is sure to be a show. I'm aAyer reporting from UC Sports. Hard to believe I'm standing here right on this court as the UConn men's basketball squad just defeated the number 1 conference-ranked Temple Owls 77-62 in the semifinals of the American Athletic Conference Tournament. Similar to yesterday, UConn opened up the first points of the game by the help of Daniel Hamilton with 2. But then UConn went scoreless for a good 4 minutes. Temple's defense began giving them a run for their money. The defensive pressure was just too much for them. UConn couldn't make any shots. They were getting blocked, but that ended very quickly. UConn took the game in their own hands around the 14-minute mark. Their shooting picked up. Hamilton finished this half with 9 points and 7 rebounds. Jalen Adams had 7 points with 4 assists. Sean Miller went for 6 points, 4 rebounds. At one point, UConn even had a 56% shooting percentage. Jalen Bond and Josh Brown from Temple were the Huskies' biggest threats this half with 16 points combined. If there was anything the Huskies needed to work on, it would be their fouls. The Huskies drew 9 fouls compared to Temple's 5. Just like the first half, the Huskies had this game in their grasp. Daniel Hamilton comes out around the 14-minute mark of the second half and drops 2 back-to-back shots, one being a 2, the other a 3. The UConn chant can be heard for miles. After that, the Huskies seem to have lost their offensive flow for a little bit. Midway through the half, they weren't rebounding as well, and fouls were still a prominent issue for the squad. But just like the first half, that drought did not last for long. The Huskies came back, fired up. Sean Miller comes back with a huge dunk to ignite the crowd at the 10-minute mark, then another dunk at the 7.5-minute mark. Temple had 3 major fouls at the end, which clearly hurt them. UConn was at the foul line 3 times in the last 2 minutes of play. Coach Ali said the reason why UConn dominates in March is all due to former UConn men's basketball coach Jim Calhoun.
Starts with Coach Calhoun and ends with Coach Calhoun. He's just a great man. He instilled that value into us, and he always told us to play our best basketball in March. And it's ups and downs, but throughout the season he makes us tougher. And he's always done that. He's breathed that into me. And I just want to be playing our best basketball now. And like I say, I don't get too discouraged over the bad days. Bad days are days of experience, and good days bring happiness. So I don't really get down. It's momentarily I get down, but I'm always positive because I know these days is going to build us if we just stay together. And I think everybody is witnessing that, but we still got one more game left.
We had to keep fighting. We wanted this game. I think everybody on the team wanted this game as much as Coach Ollie did. So we just fought together, got stops, and was scoring the ball.
We will see you all tomorrow as UConn takes on Memphis in the AAC championship round. The winner of that game will get an automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. I'm Justin aAyer with UC Sports.
And there you have it, everyone. The UConn men's basketball squad is officially the 2016 American Athletic Conference champions. No one believed us. UConn proved them wrong. Take a look at this. The crowd is going crazy. UConn, welcome to March Madness.
The first half was a UConn domination all the way through, and with a solid 32-19 lead at the half, you would think nothing other. Even the UConn bench had some key contributions this half, a total team effort, no doubt. The AAC conference superstar Daniel Hamilton dropped 7 points and 6 rebounds this half. Rodney Purvis was also on fire for a change. He had 5 total points, 3 rebounds, one of which being a clutch 3-pointer with just under 13 minutes. UConn still had themselves in some foul trouble this half. They ended the half with 11 fouls compared to Memphis's 8. But really, this half was UConn's game all the way through. Their offense was firing on all cylinders. Players who you normally wouldn't see make shots made them, including Kenton Facey for 4. Memphis's offense just couldn't keep up with these Huskies. Memphis' best player, Dedrick Lawson, dropped 11 this half, who was clearly the Huskies' biggest threat. Shaq Goodwin only had 2 buckets, surprisingly. UConn figured out very quickly if they remained consistent, this game would be theirs for the taking. By the time the second half started, UConn clearly looked like a championship winner. Sean Miller opens up with a huge slam dunk, followed by a Miller 3-pointer. Sean had quite the opening, that is for sure, for the Huskies. Fouls were still a key issue for the Blue Men. At one point, Nolan, Brima, and Enoch each had 4 fouls each. This is when Memphis went on a 10-0 run. But that did not last long because Memphis began having the same foul trouble. Whistles were blown consistently. UConn took advantage of this, making many important shots and providing defensive pressure that was too much for the Tigers to handle. It was an all-around-the-roster UConn win for sure. Miller finished with 13 points. Hamilton had 12. Purvis had 12. Even Omar Calhoun had 10. And before you knew it, UConn were the conference champions. Daniel Hamilton was selected as the tournament's most outstanding player right before the Huskies began cutting down the net for the first time ever as American Athletic Conference champions. UConn defeated Memphis 72-58. Just an all-around great performance by the Huskies. Offensively and defensively, they were firing on all cylinders. This tournament is definitely one for the books. I know all Huskies fans will agree with me, whether it be the 70-foot buzzer beater by Jalen Adams to put the Cincinnati game in quadruple overtime, the back-to-back dunks yesterday versus Temple, or today's stellar defensive pressure. this tournament was one of the greatest for the UConn Husky squad.
You know, I haven't won a conference championship yet in my tenure as a head coach. Win the first one with this group, with all the ups and downs this season. It really makes it all worthwhile. So I'm really happy for our university. I'm really happy for our new AD and president. And, you know, I'm really so happy for these guys, these players, because, you know, they've been scrutinized a lot. And for them to come together like they did and play so hard for these 3 games and, you know, and going 4 overtimes, it just really shows our toughness, our resiliency, and, you know, what UConn is made about.
With the NCAA tournament on the rise, CBS just announced today is Selection Sunday that UConn will be the number 9 seed facing off against number 8 Colorado in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So that is where their focus will be next.
You know, Colorado, we got to go in there and we got to take care of business, and we got to just take it one game at a time and one day at a time and prepare right, make sure we get a lot of fluids because we played a lot of minutes, and just continue to make sure we're ready to play.
I am standing here with Alon DiCarlo, sports writer for the Daily Campus, UConn's daily newspaper. I'm here to talk about your thoughts and opinions on the game. So really, what were the key contributions for the Huskies to win this tournament?
A lot of depth. Everyone played their role in this tournament, but it really came down to Daniel Hamilton's performance. All season long, the last 2 years, Hamilton's been the best player on the team. He can do everything. He scores, passes, rebounds, plays great defense when he wants to. It's something Kevin Ollie consistently rides him about. But in this tournament, he really brought his A game. He was able to make a lot of tough shots that he wasn't making earlier in the season. And once he got confident and comfortable in his jump shot, that allowed him to start attacking basket more freely, and that just opens up the rest of the UConn offense.
Now, why do you think Daniel Hamilton is so inconsistent throughout the regular season, but here he comes turning out to be the tournament's best player? How do we talk about something like this?
I think that's just sports. You know, his jump shot's always been streaky. When he gets into a groove, he'll make a few. He'll shoot like 7 of 13, 7 of 10. Then he'll have other nights where he'll go 2 of 11, and I think that's just sports. But even when his jumper's not falling, he'll attack the basket, he'll pass, he'll initiate the offense, and he's always been an excellent rebounder for his position. So he always finds ways to contribute. Just this weekend, everything clicked.
Now, how do you feel? It just got announced, Selection Sunday. UConn will be facing Colorado, number 8. How do you feel? How do you think that they're going to win?
I think that's a good matchup for UConn. Even though I haven't really watched that much of Colorado, I know this UConn team is peaking, and they have a lot of talent on this roster. So it's going to be a great matchup. 8-9 is always balanced. So I think UConn fans should feel confident in their team that they're going to put in a great effort. I think they're playing Thursday. So it should be a good one.
Joe Lunardi from ESPN put UConn in the bottom 4. What do you have to say to him?
I think Joe Lunardi needs to watch the games. UConn was not one of the 4 worst teams in this tournament, and I think that is just a poor job of ranking.
And last but not least, the last question, the 70-foot buzzer beater that happened right here. Do you think that's UConn's best shot in history? If not, what is UConn's best shot in history?
It's certainly the best shot I've ever seen in UConn history, but I'm still partial to the Kemba Walker shot. The Kemba shot against Pitt in 2011 is iconic, not just for UConn fans, but for sports fans everywhere. I've never seen a cleaner step back, and just when the ball is just arcing through the air, you can just, it's just perfect. And the reason that shot's so special is they went on to win the national championship. Is this team capable of that? We'll see.
Reporting from the American Athletic Conference Championship in Orlando at the Amway Center, I'm Justin Ayer, and this is UC Sports.
Unfortunately, UConn's magical run did not continue into the NCAA tournament, as the Huskies found themselves getting rock-chalked by the Kansas Jayhawks in the second round. The Hungry Huskies showed up in the first round, coming out on top over Colorado. However, the success did not carry over into the second. The offense struggled from the beginning, going on a streak where they had 10 consecutive missed shots. However, the backcourt trio of Sterling Gibbs, Ronnie Purvis, and Daniel Hamilton led a comeback that brought a 20-point Kansas lead down to 9. But it was too little too late for UConn, as the stellar play from Wayne Selden and Perry Ellis was just too much to overcome, as Kansas advanced to the Sweet 16 by a final score of 73-61. Despite the defeat, it was a great run by the men's team, and we look forward to see what Hollywood has in store for us next year.
Now, for those keeping score at home, that was Kevin Ollie's only first loss in the tournament.
7-1.
Now, there are a few certainties in this life. Death, taxes, Skip Bayless making wrong predictions, and UConn's Wi-Fi never working even when you want to buy Fetty Wap tickets. But the biggest certainty is the women's basketball team's dominance over the rest of the basketball world. The Lady Huskies extended their historic winning streak to 70 games this past weekend with wins over 16-seeded Robert Morris and number 9 seed Duquesne in the opening 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. Hector Molina caught up with Justin Ayer for the story.
Hector Molina here, back at camp alongside my right-hand man, Justin Ayer, for round 2 of action of the women's NCAA tournament, where the UConn Huskies have just faced off against the Duquesne Dukes. The Huskies came out on top in this one, 97-51, which was the same old story as the first round. However, it wasn't such smooth sailing for the Huskies in the beginning, as they only found themselves being up by 6 after the first quarter.
No, Hector, you got that 100% right. This was actually one of the more competitive games for the Huskies this season. At one point, they were even down by 1 in the first quarter. That's something you don't see with this squad too much.
Right, and the reason Duquesne was able to hang with the Huskies is their ability to shoot from the outside. They were living and dying with the 3. They were living with it in the first quarter. However, it was dying out as the game went on. However, the Huskies were able to show that they could shoot from long range as well, especially Mariah Jefferson shooting 6 for 8 from downtown.
Unbelievable.
And especially getting it done on the defensive end as well, creating many easy transition buckets for the Huskies.
Yeah, and now, not to mention, this was also the last game for Breonna Stewart, for Mariah Jefferson, for Morgan Tuck. I think Stewie ended up with 21 at the end of this game, Tuck and Jefferson with 20. What a great way for them to end their last home game in Gamble.
Right, and they just set the example for the rest of the team. I mean, they've established their legacy from the time they first stepped onto campus here in Storrs. And that's something that Gino Auriemma talked about in the presser at the end of the game.
My kids are really huge basketball fans, and I know they watch a lot of basketball on television. So when I explained to them, like, do you know how a 15 seed beats a 2 seed? Well, one, the 15 seed has to play their ass off. That's number one. But even more important, the number 2 seed has to have a bad day. Like they just maybe don't come ready right away and they get down early, or maybe they just don't bring that killer instinct that day, or maybe they're looking to the next game, or they gave the 15 seed hope early. I said, that's what happens in tournament games.
There's obviously a lot going on, and especially when the NCAA tournament starts, we have an even bigger spotlight on our team, just because we're UConn, what we're hoping to do, planning to do. And, I think the best way we block it out is, once we step on the court, we know that this is our time. Get back into the mental state of mind that, of what we're trying to do with the team individually and not worry about anything else.
Yeah, and another thing that not only Gino speaks about, but the players rave about how they have heart, and that's something their head coach instills in this team. I mean, you saw at one point Breonna Stewart dove for the ball right on the court. I mean, it really is something to watch if you're a high school player or a player that's trying to rise up in the big leagues. The UConn squad is a team to look after because they really do some things, especially heart-wise, that a lot of teams do not do.
Definitely, and that does the heart that they show on the court, it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And
absolutely not.
Everyone thinks of the highest scoring points that UConn puts on the board, and the heart doesn't show up, and that's only something you can see if you're watching this team very closely, which a lot of people in this nation obviously are.
Yep.
Well, the Huskies will keep it going Saturday when they take on Mississippi State in the Sweet 16 in Bridgeport. For Justin Ayer, I'm Hector Molina, and this is UC Sports.
Coming up on UC Sports, UConn baseball looked to pull off some upsets over 21-ranked UC Santa Barbara.
And wait till we hear what's happening with some UConn alum, including one former Husky signing with the New England Patriots. Stay tuned. You're watching UC Sports. Going over to the Diamond, it was a sad West Side story for the UConn baseball team as they got swept in a 3-game set by UC Santa Barbara. UConn took a 1-run lead into the ninth in the first game. However, the Gauchos rallied and the Bats came alive as they took the series with scores of 5-3, 9-6, 6-2, respectively. The Huskies look to get back on track on the base paths as they go on the road to New York to take on Columbia this Friday.
Now, UConn softball had a very busy spring break. They played 10 games in 7 days going 6-4 in those games. Team traveled first to Hofstra University out on Long Island for the first weekend before playing 6 games in Charleston, South Carolina. UConn is now 10-18 on the season and will begin conference play this week against Memphis. Now, UConn athletes have taken various leagues by storm over the last 2 decades, from Diana Taurasi in the WNBA to Byron Jones wowing scouts at the NFL Combine just last year. Here are the top stories of UConn athletes in this UC Sports edition of Where Are They Now? So first up, we have none other than Kemba Walker, who led UConn to a national championship back in 2011. Today, he is the star point guard for the Charlotte Hornets, averaging 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists this season. The Hornets are now winners of 17 of the last 21 games, and Walker is averaging 22 points and 6 assists during those games as the Hornets chase a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference.
Now over to the double-double machine that has been Andre Drummond. Andre the Giant has been on a tear of late as he has registered a double-double in 3 of his last 4 games. Drummond has been a huge reason the Pistons find themselves holding on to that last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference, and has continued to solidify his spot as one of the premier centers in the NBA.
Now in the NFL, the New England Patriots signed former Husky Donald Brown. Donald Brown, the running back who was a first-round pick back in 2009 by the Indianapolis Colts, has just over 2,700 rushing yards in his career, and now will be one player who can brag about taking handoffs from Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in his career. So hopefully he can get his career back on track. Now with the Patriots, what else do we have?
Now, sticking on the topic of UConn alums, Karan Tough Juice Butler has just made a huge donation to the men's and women's basketball practice center. And not sure what the correct dollar amount is, but it's somewhere in the millions. And it's just great to see UConn alum giving back to the university.
Yeah, the exact amount has not been released by the UConn Foundation. Donors have that right to keep that part anonymous. Butler also had the right to keep his name anonymous, so it's nice that he comes forward and says, yes, I donated money. I want to see his program get better. And it's in the millions range. Yep. Of course, the record for the most money donated to a UConn athletic program is Tony Rizza last year, donating a total of $8 million through cumulative donations for the new UConn Maroney Stadium, which will actually debut this fall. So always love to see various people giving back to other programs other than basketball. But Karan Butler, nevertheless, a seasoned veteran in the NBA for the Dallas Mavericks currently, giving back to his alma mater. Nothing better.
Yeah, and even though those are huge dollar amounts, that's a lot of cash right there. But it's just great to see these UConn alum just giving back to the university, and shows that, the Husky pride that instilled them in stores carries on with them even after graduation.
Definitely.
So it's awesome. It's great for the university, great for everybody.
Definitely. Well, that's it for this edition of UC Sports. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube page at UCTV Channel 14 to catch up on every show that you might have missed, whether it be here for UC Sports or Stores Nation, or maybe even the UConn Tonight Show. Make sure you also follow us on Twitter at UCTV Sports to catch live game updates from all your favorite UConn teams. For Hector Molina, I'm Anthony DiBernardo. We'll see you guys next week. Good night.